Organization of the human body. Introduction. The human body is made of cells, tissues, organs, and systems. Within cells are other components, such as nutrients, water, and other chemicals. These function interrelatedly in an effort to maintain physiological and psychological homeostasis. A basic knowledge of these functions will be discussed in this session so that you can understand, assess, and predict human behavior. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Describe the components of a human cell. 2. Explain the functions of the component parts of a human cell. 3. Explain the components of the cell environment. The typical human cell. The cell is the simplest level of organization in a human body. Cells are the basic structural and functional units of the human body. There are many different types of cells, such as an egg cell, sperm cell, and mucous cell, rod cells in the eyes, hair cells, and nerve cells, as shown above. Tissues. A tissue is a group of cells that perform a specific function. The basic types of tissues in the human body include muscle, connective, nervous, and columnar tissues, among others. These are shown below. Organs. An organ consists of 2 or more tissues that perform a particular or similar function. Examples include the heart, liver, stomach, and so on. Systems. A system is made of an association of organs that have a common function. The major systems in the human body include digestive, nervous, endocrine, urinary, reproductive, respiratory, and circulatory systems. Parts of human cells. There are 2 types of cells that make up all living things on Earth: the prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Prokaryotic cells, like bacteria, have no nucleus, while eukaryotic cells are like those of the human body. So, a human cell is enclosed by a cell or plasma membrane. Enclosed by that membrane is the cytoplasm with associate organelles plus a nucleus, as shown in figure 3.2. Cell membrane. The cell/plasma membrane encloses every human cell. In terms of structural layout, the cell membrane has 2 primary building blocks. These include protein, about 60% of the membrane, and lipid or fat, about 40% of the membrane. The primary lipid layer is called phospholipid, and the molecules of phospholipid form a phospholipid bilayer. 2 layers of phospholipid molecules. This bilayer forms the 2 ends of a phospholipid molecule. They have different characteristics. One end is polar or hydrophilic, and the other one, the hydrocarbon tail below, is nonpolar or hydrophobic. Functions of the cell membrane include supporting and retaining the cytoplasm. In order to perform the latter function, it is important to note that the cell is separated from its environment and needs to get nutrients in and waste products out. Some molecules can cross the membrane without assistance. Most cannot. Water, non-polar molecules, and some small polar molecules can cross. Non-polar molecules penetrate by actually dissolving into the liquid bilayer. Most polar compounds, such as amino acids, organic acids, and inorganic salts, are not allowed entry, but instead must be specifically transported across the membrane by proteins. Cell membranes also facilitate communication, recognition or perception, and selective transportation of compounds across cell membranes. For this, they require the expenditure of energy. Cytoplasm and organelles. Cytoplasm consists of a gelatinous solution and contains microtubules which serve as a cell's cytoskeleton, and organelles, literally little organs. Nucleus. Cells also contain a nucleus, within which is found DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, in the form of chromosomes, plus nucleoli, within which ribosomes are formed. Cell organelles. These include endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex, lysosomes. Endoplasmic reticulum. It comes in two forms, smooth and rough. The surface of rough ER is coated with ribosomes. The surface of the smooth ER is not. Functions include mechanical support, synthesis, especially proteins, by the rough ER, and transport. Golgi complex consists of a series of flattened sacs or cisternae. Functions include synthesis of substances like phospholipids, packaging of materials for transport in vessels, and production of lysosomes. Lysosomes. These are membrane-enclosed spheres that contain powerful digestive enzymes. Functions include destruction of damaged cells, which is why they are sometimes called suicide bags, and digestion of phagocytosized materials, such as bacteria. Mitochondria. They have a double membrane, outer membrane, and highly convoluted inner membrane. The inner membrane has folds or shelf-like structures called cristae that contain elementary particles. These particles contain enzymes important in ATP production. The primary function is production of adenosine triphosphate, ATP. Other parts of the cells are ribosomes, which are composed of rRNA, ribosomal RNA, and protein. The primary function includes production of proteins. Centrioles. They are paired cylindrical structures located near the nucleus. They play an important role in cell division. Deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, controls cell functions via transcription and translation. In other words, by controlling protein synthesis in a cell. Components of the cellular environment. Number 1, water. Water comprises 60 to 90% of most living organisms and cells. They are important because it serves as an excellent solvent and enters into many metabolic reactions. Ions, atoms or molecules with unequal numbers of electrons and proteins. They are found in both intra and extracellular fluids. Examples of important ions include sodium, potassium, calcium, and chloride. Number 2, carbohydrates. They are about 3% of the dry mass of a typical cell. They are composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms. Example, glucose. They are an important source of energy for cells. Types include monosaccharides, e.g. glucose. Most contain 5 or 6 carbon atoms. Disaccharides, which contain 2 monosaccharides linked together. Examples include sucrose. A common plant disaccharide is composed of the monosaccharides glucose and fructose. And lactose, or milk sugar, a disaccharide composed of glucose and the monosaccharide galactose. And polysaccharides. Polysaccharides have several monosaccharides linked together. Examples include starch, a common plant polysaccharide made up of many glucose molecules, and glycogen, commonly stored in the liver. Number 3. Lipids. These constitute about 40% of the dry mass of a typical cell. They are composed largely of carbon and hydrogen. They are generally insoluble in water and involved mainly with long-term energy storage. Other functions as a structural component, as in the case of phospholipids, that are the major building blocks in cell membranes, and as messengers, hormones, that play roles in communication within and between cells. Subclasses include triglycerides, which consist of one glycerol molecule plus 3 fatty acids. In phospholipids, a phosphate group substitutes for one fatty acid, and these lipids are an important component of cell membrane. Steroids include testosterone, estrogen, and cholesterol. 4. Protein. These constitute about 50 to 60% of the dry mass of a typical cell. They have two functional categories: structural, which are proteins, parts of the structure of a cell, like those in the cell membrane, and enzymes. Enzymes are catalysts. Enzymes bind temporarily to one or more of the reactants of the reaction they catalyze. In doing so, they lower the amount of activation energy needed and thus speed up the reaction. Study session summary. A summary of our discussion in this study session is as follows. Cells are a basic structural and functional unit of the human body. A tissue is a group of cells that perform a specific function. An organ consists of two or more tissues that perform a particular or similar function. A system is made up of an association of organs that have a common function. The major systems in the human body include digestive, nervous, endocrine, urinary, reproductive, and respiratory systems. There are two types of cells that make up all living things on earth: prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Prokaryotic cells, like bacteria, have no nucleus, while eukaryotic cells, which are like those of the human body, do. The plasma/cell membrane encloses every human cell. Functions of the cell membrane include supporting and retaining the cytoplasm. Cell membranes also facilitate communication, recognition and perception, and selective transportation of compounds across cell membranes. For these, they require the expenditure of energy. There are other structures such as the cytoplasm and organelles. The nucleus contains the DNA, the oxyribonucleic acid, in the form of chromosomes, plus nucleoli, within which ribosomes are found. The endoplasmic reticulum comes in two forms: smooth and rough. Functions include mechanical support, synthesis, especially proteins, by the rough ER, and transport. The Golgi complex consists of a series of flattened sacs, or cisternae. Functions include synthesis of substances like phospholipids, packaging of materials for transport in vessels, and production of lysosomes. Lysosomes are membrane-enclosed spheres that contain powerful digestive enzymes. Functions include destruction of damaged cells, which is why they are sometimes called suicide bags, and digestion of phagocytosized materials, such as bacteria. Ribosomes are composed of rRNA, ribosomal RNA, and protein. The primary function include production of proteins. Centrioles are paired cylindrical structures located near the nucleus. They play an important role in cell division. Deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, controls cell functions via transcription and translation. In other words, by controlling protein synthesis in a cell. Mitochondria are small, round, or rod-shaped bodies found in the cytoplasm of most cells. They produce enzymes for the conversion of food to energy. The component parts of the cellular environment include water, carbohydrates, lipids, and protein. End of study session 3. Thanks for listening.